In 1940, the Nazi regime forces prisoners in concentration camps to counterfeit millions of pounds. The scheme involves sneaking them into Great Britain to overwhelm the banking system and collapse the economy, which might aid Germany in winning the war. After all the counterfeit money is placed into bags, it is transporting by trains. One evening, the female workers at a crucial weapons plant in Birmingham, England, are forced to continue their duties as the city endures bombing raids from German aircraft. It's an employee's birthday today, so everyone sings the happy birthday song for her, and they even light a candle. Sadly, the pleasant instant is ruined when an explosive hits the factory, immediately detonating it and ending the lives of all the employees. At the same time, Tommy resides alone. He was once the head of the Peaky Blinders, the strongest gang in England, but currently he is by himself in the countryside working on his life story. The next morning, his assistant Johnny tells him that their home city of Birmingham has been attacked, but Tommy displays no emotion. Johnny also mentions that he encountered a woman leaving town and she knew him from the past. She inquired if he was aware of Tommy's fate, referring to him as the leader of all the gypsies. Johnny explained to her that Tommy had retreated from society to focus on his writing. As Tommy writes his book, the phone rings. As he gets up from the table to unplug it, he sees someone sprinting across his lawn. Following a tense moment, he hits the table in annoyance. He chooses to take a stroll and discovers a red scarf hanging on a branch. Later, as he's writing, he shares that he's recently been troubled by images of his deceased daughter. But the scarf is genuine, and he has no idea how it appeared. Because the scarf's presence troubles him, he chooses to place it on his brother's grave. Later that day, Tommy's sister, Ada, comes to see him and explains what occurred at the factory. She asks Tommy to return and assist, but he declines since he needs to confront his inner demons. Ada tells him off, noting that he hasn't visited his boys in ages. But Tommy states he was never a real dad. Even though she's annoyed, Ada tells him what's happening. His son, Charles, is fighting in North Africa, and his other son, Duke, has become the new head of the Peaky Blinders. Sadly, he's causing the gang serious problems, and Ada fears he'll be executed by the authorities or killed by the townspeople. Tommy claims he's a different person after his brother died, so he's unable to return. In Birmingham, firemen and police officers are dealing with the ruined factory. Just then, the Peaky Blinders show up, and the police realize they are powerless to stop them. The group tears off the front entrance and begins taking any weapons not ruined by the blast. The proprietor instantly objects, but Duke tells him they have authorization from the head inspector of the Birmingham police and hands him some cash. Because the owner continues to complain to the police, Duke's main man, Elijah, declares that anyone who attempts to interfere will be identified and their relatives will be harmed. The owner of the factory states he is not afraid of them, so Duke then hits him. His workers quickly respond, so the Peaky Blinders also beat them, easily winning the battle. After the civilians cease their meddling, the group completes gathering all the weapons they are able to locate. A short time later, Ada goes back to Birmingham and collects her son Carl, then they proceed to the factory. But the workers instantly confront her for having the nerve to appear, as the Peaky Blinders had made things much worse. At a tavern, Duke encounters a Nazi operative named Beckett, who presents him with an example of his fake currency. There is £350 million available to be put into the British economy, and he intends to employ gangs for this purpose. If the Peaky Blinders accept his offer, they will receive a 20% share, but they must prepare for the chaos that will ensue. Beckett also mentions that his superiors had instructed him to speak with Tommy. A frustrated Duke then fires at the window, aiming for the car outside while declaring he is now in command. When Beckett questions if he's prepared to turn against his nation, Duke confirms he is. So Beckett informs him he'll need to demonstrate it this evening. The following day, Tommy hears a sound in his home and quickly takes a firearm to check it out. He discovers a note on a table that instructs, "Go through the open windows." Tommy follows this direction until he locates Ko, who is engrossed in his book. He aims his weapon at her, but upon seeing her up close, he is stunned because she strongly resembles Duke's deceased mother, Zelda. Ko reveals that she is Zelda's identical sibling and that she continues to communicate with her through dreams and spiritual gathering. She states Zelda dispatched her to this place with a communication. The twins are Romani, and Duke is associating with dangerous individuals who intend to harm the Romani community. Should Tommy agree to return and halt his son, Ko pledges to assist him in discovering inner tranquility. All at once, Johnny rushes into the room holding a gun, believing an intruder is present. However, Tommy catches him off guard by explaining that Ko is their visitor. Behind closed doors, Johnny informs Tommy that Ko exploits mothers in mourning by pretending to communicate with the spirits of their sons who died in battle. He's concerned that she is also influencing Tommy, but Tommy disregards his warning. Later that day, Duke looks in on his pigs and stores some items in his storage room. Just then, Ada comes up to him. She confronts him about the factory attack and questions him about the pigs. Duke states that a meat processing plant was attacked, so he is looking after them for now. However, Ada doesn't accept his account. Then Duke admits he's been selling drugs, and Ada recalls that the hospital had its supply stolen. She says she will tell on him, but Duke states that no one is able to stop him. Later, Ada visits a friend who previously worked for Tommy. She informs him about Duke's actions and mentions her consideration of reporting him to the military police. Ada requests his statement and backing, but he declines to assist her. Defying Duke will only lead to problems, and he thinks that Tommy is the only person capable of stopping him. At the same time, Tommy heads to his wine cellar and unintentionally lets go of a bottle after hearing a sound. He experiences a flashback to his time in the trenches during the conflict, which confirms he is suffering from significant PTSD. In his book, he states that he brought the conflict to his house so he could sleep. Afterward, Ko wakes him up suddenly, giving him the scarf and inquiring about his sibling. Tommy won't discuss it, but Ko insists, saying she is really Zelda inhabiting her sister's body. When Tommy doubts her, she explains the scarf was left by his daughter and that she talked to his brother, using Tommy's words at the grave as evidence. He's now curious and desires further information, but she will only reveal more if he consents to assist Duke. Tommy states he's no longer that person, so she proposes assisting him in recovering his former self. After that, they begin to get intimate as she mentions their former private place for dates, offering more evidence that she is Zelda. After they finish, Ko informs Tommy that his brother doesn't hold him responsible for his passing, and everyone thinks he took his own life. Tommy attempts to silence her, explaining that the brother took his car, which led Tommy to pursue him. Feeling very bad about it, Tommy confesses his actions. The evening was misty and his brother had consumed an excessive amount of cigarettes, leading him to believe Tommy was the devil. During the fight, Tommy unintentionally caused his death. Ko reassures him, explaining that Tommy needs to move on. He failed to protect his daughter and his brother, but he still has a chance to protect his son. Later that night, Birmingham experiences another bombing. Everyone hurries to the shelters, and Ada uses this opportunity to speak with all the townspeople at once. She aims to stop Duke, but she will require their statements to approach the military police. At the same time, Duke has a meeting with Beckett and Virgil, who is the deputy leader of the British Fascist League. Virgil is going to help spread the counterfeit cash throughout the nation, so he wishes to talk about the specifics. Duke explains his idea to use 3 canal boats to gather the money, which Virgil finds impressive. Next, Beckett shares that he has information indicating Virgil is a betrayer and thus unreliable. Duke instantly fires at Virgil, who attempts to drag himself off as he slowly loses blood. Duke fires at him again to finish him off, but Beckett tells him to empty his gun into him. After this, Duke is in a very worried state, so Beckett tells him that he deals with highly important individuals and Duke will be safe. Before long, Duke must transport the boats to Liverpool and pick up the funds. However, for the time being, Duke needs to dispose of the corpse. After Beckett departs, Duke shatters a bottle in anger. After that, he gives the corpse to the pigs. In Liverpool, the vessels carrying the cases packed with cash finally get there. The following morning, Tommy wakes up by himself in bed with the scarf. After placing it back on his brother's burial site, he at last chooses to take action. He changes into his old outfit and retrieves his vehicle, stating he's heading to Birmingham. A concerned Johnny believes this is insane and offers to accompany him. Meanwhile, Duke gets up after sleeping with a woman. He understands he still possesses Virgil's attire, so he sets them on fire. Right then, Beckett comes up to him and explains what Ada did inside the shelter. He desires Duke to eliminate her before she reports to the military police. Beckett also states he's embarrassed by his son, but he would be very proud of Duke if Duke were his own child. Later, Duke trails Ada and Carl through the town and conceals himself in a phone booth from which he can execute the ideal shot. But his love for his family stops him, so he angrily breaks the phone. He keeps following her and sees a car pull up close to her. As Beckett emerges, Duke shouts a warning to her. Sadly, it's past the point of no return. Beckett fires at her multiple times, ending her life, and takes the satchel containing the testimonies. Prior to his departure, he informs Duke that he had not made him proud. Carl falls apart, and Duke can only watch, feeling useless. While driving, Tommy pulls over and exits the vehicle to gaze at Ada's spirit, which confirms to him that she has passed away. A few moments later, he gets to the crime scene, and an officer informs him that Duke played a part in Ada's demise. Tommy dispatches Johnny to the morgue to watch over Ada's remains as he handles the other matters. At the bar, Tommy pauses the song, then inquires about Duke. The townspeople quickly offend him and challenge him about his behavior. As the situation is on the verge of getting out of hand, Elijah recognizes Tommy and announces it to everyone present. Everyone steps back except for one soldier who doesn't know the name and aims his weapon at him. Tommy reacts by placing a grenade inside his top. The man flees the bar in a fright and then explodes. Next, Tommy grabs the soldier's weapon and fires at the record player, making Elijah bring him to his child. In the storage room, Duke gathers some items and attempts to depart, but Tommy locates him and shoves him into the dirt. He also grabs the medicine pouches and begins tossing them at Duke, telling him off for going too far. After Tommy hits him, Duke clarifies that he couldn't murder Ada because he remains devoted to his family. But he frequently commits wrongs because wrongdoing is the sole inheritance his father bequeathed him. He aggressively shoves Tommy and they begin to wrestle in the dirt. Tommy quickly defeats him and makes Duke reveal information about Beckett and the scheme. Later, Tommy visits the funeral home and retrieves Johnny's firearm before seeing him off. He then speaks to Ada's corpse, stating he should have arrived earlier when she requested. He also confesses that he murdered their brother, and it wasn't by chance since he was intoxicated and filled with anger. Tommy states he murdered his sibling to escape him. However, following numerous family fatalities, he promises that something positive will emerge from all the negativity. Upon exiting the funeral home, he is crying. The moment he goes out, Tommy locates Beckett and they begin firing at one another. The horses react with fright as the men move quickly from place to place, attempting to remain out of sight. Beckett attempts to persuade Tommy that Hitler's views on purifying society of undesirable elements are correct and believes that concluding the conflict with money is preferable to using explosive. When Beckett uses up his final bullets, he urges the horses forward to shield himself and flees as they obstruct the passageway. Tommy then mounts a horse and travels through the town where the residents greet him like royalty. At the bar, Duke is trying to forget his guilt with drinks. Co goes to see him and says that Zelda's ghost had previously told her that Tommy and Duke would eventually team up, so this is Duke's opportunity to act honorably. She also hands him a bullet and instructs him that once they deal with the Nazis, Duke has to kill Tommy. Co assured him in a calm, and this was the sole method to get it. If Tommy passes away, Duke is able to take over as the new Gypsy King, which was always his mother's desire. As Co exits the pub, she collides with Tommy and informs him that Duke is going to assist him. However, Tommy states that initially he requires a gypsy wagon. Inside, Duke tosses a coin to help him decide. Tommy enters and prepares a beverage for each of them as Duke consents to assist him in eliminating Beckett. Soon after, Ada's loved ones and acquaintances come together for her burial. The corpse is placed in a gypsy wagon along with some pictures, and Tommy ignites it, observing the fire as he copes with his sorrow. That evening, Duke telephones Beckett to inform him that Tommy intends to pursue him. But Duke still wishes to assist, so Beckett consents to give him $70 million for completing the scheme. At the same time, Tommy observes the remains where the cart once stood. Right then, dockyard boss Stagg shows up and tells him everything about the suspicious warehouse and boats at the dock. Upon Duke's arrival, Tommy presents him to Stagg and declares his decision to put faith in his son. The men then devise a strategy based on Stagg's information. Tommy wishes to utilize the Waterloo Tunnel, and Stagg mentions that it was closed after a section of it caved in. But Tommy promises him he will get inside somehow. While traveling to Liverpool, Tommy continues working on his book and dedicates it to his kids. He states that Duke ought to be his rightful successor, but this evening's task is a trial that will expose his real character. In the end, Tommy discovers the blocked entry to the Waterloo Tunnel and requests Cos assistance. Her relatives promptly begin using their equipment to dismantle the gate. As they are waiting, Tommy requests Co to examine his palm. She agrees and only talks about past events, so he inquires about what lies ahead for him. Co informs him that this evening he will receive the item he desires. So Tommy takes out his weapon and confesses he's aware Co intends to murder him ever since her initial visit. He states she brings bad luck, and Co responds that if Tommy fails to kill Duke, the child will end up killing Tommy. As Tommy goes into the tunnel, Duke speaks with Beckett, who questions him about Tommy's strategy. Duke explains the boat's path and that they'll have limited weapons, so Beckett translates this information for his German soldiers. Before long, German aircraft are attacking the vicinity, leading to additional sections of the tunnel caving in and trapping Tommy. This causes him to experience flashbacks driven by PTSD, recalling his time in the trenches and to see visions of his deceased loved one. However, Tommy doesn't quit and tunnels through the rubble until he's out. He continues to run until he locates the staircase. By the pier, German troops observe the vessels pulling in. They instantly start shooting at Stagg, who sets off several bombs before diving into the water. It seems this was the intention from the start. The vessel collides with the pier and detonates, eliminating all the troops in a single blast. Inside the warehouse, Beckett understands Duke deceived him and aims his weapon at him. Duke clarifies that his coin instructed him to go against his father, but he decided to ignore the coin and act correctly instead. Just then, a blast goes off within the storage building. This causes Beckett to fall, and Duke flees as Tommy is at last able to enter. Before long, the pay blinders encircle the warehouse and engage in a shootout with the last Nazi soldiers, eliminating them all without pity. Tommy also eliminates some individuals as he moves stealthily and encounters Duke, who inquires about his delay. Annoyed, Tommy explains he's only present because his mom requested it and dismisses him. Next, Tommy places a landmine within the money boxes to detonate them, thus ruining the Nazi scheme. Witnessing this, Beckett enters his vehicle and begins driving towards Tommy, who is waiting with his weapon drawn. Beckett fires 2 shots into his stomach, then Tommy shoots him in the head. The vehicle continues its movement, and Tommy spreads his arms, anticipating the end, but Duke tackles him and the car collides with the wall instead. As Tommy falls to the ground and the gang closes in, Tommy hands Duke a weapon and tells him to finish it. Initially, Duke declines, but Tommy persists, leading Duke to fire the weapon. The Paquis blinders bid farewell to their leader, and Duke weeps as Tommy passes away while reciting a verse. The group names Duke the Fresh Gypsy Monarch, so Duke instructs them to destroy any counterfeit currency that might be left. Later on, Co gets Tommy's book and hands it to Duke. The group assembles near a wagon holding Tommy's corpse, several pictures, and the remaining counterfeit money.